All right, so I'm going to continue working from home here, and we're going to make our web page, try to make it look like our target here, right? Get the styles so it looks like this. All right, so to begin with, remember in our HTML document, we are linking to this file style.css, right? This says, hey, link to a style sheet. The reference that we're going to use is style.css, so it links to this file. And here's my style sheet. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to select the body. All right, the body is where all my visible content is in. And I want to just go text align center. Nice autocomplete stuff. Remember the semicolon at the end, and we hit save. And because I have the live server going, right, it's open with live server. I did that in the last video. It automatically refreshed, and you can see everything's centered, which is what we wanted to have here, right? Everything's just nicely centered. Okay, cool. All right, next up, let's do something with these input elements, right? They're way too wide. Okay, here we made them much shorter. So to do that, we are just going to select, we can actually just select all input elements, right? The 1, 2, 3 input elements. So in here, we'll do another selector, right? Input is, say, select all input elements, and then our braces, and we can use the width property. And I think 60, 70 pixels, let's try 60 pixels. Something like that. Okay, if I go back to here, ta-da, they're now smaller. Awesome. Okay, and now let's work on this button. That's going to be fun. Okay, and again, the button, there's only one button on our page, so we can just use that button selector. We'll go to our CSS here, select the button, and I think with this one, we can do some stuff with, well, let me check what I did here. And you can play around and change this too, but oh yeah, a dark gray background and a white font, and then when it looks like the font has been changed, the font family has been changed too, and when we hover over it, things change. Okay. All right, so back to here, and let's just do our background color. Perfect. And for this one, there's no real name for that. Like there is a dark gray, but the dark gray isn't very dark. So I'm actually just going to do an RGB maybe of 60, 60, 60. And you can see here, and too, if you wanted to hover over this, and you could select this, and you can play around with different values and change things and stuff. But if you do the same amount of red, the same amount of green, and the same amount of blue, it's always going to give you a gray. And then the lower the amount, right? If I did 30, 30, 30, it's going to be darker. And the higher the amount, like 120, 120, 120, it's going to be a lighter gray. You can see that in the preview here. Okay, so I'm just going to hit undo, Control Z to undo to get back to the 60 like that. Okay, and then color is for the text color. And the color for this is just going to be white. And let's just save that. Oh, actually, let's do the font family as well. Font family, I think it was, oh yeah, Courier New. That's the one I think that's the one I wanted. Courier New is a monospace type font. And remember, it's going to try to do Courier New. If that's not on the computer, it'll use just plain Courier, and if not, it'll just use whatever monospace font it can find. And monospace means that each character takes up the same amount of space. In other fonts, sometimes I's will take up less space than a W, let's say, right? Less horizontal space. Anyway, we'll save that. The page should have refreshed, and you can now see, okay, looking not too bad there with the colors anyway. We want to add some padding, right? The text is very close to the border, so we should add some padding on the top and bottom and on the sides, maybe more on the sides than on the top and the bottom. So remember, for padding, we can do padding top and padding left and padding whatever, but we can also just do padding and do a shorthand notation here. And if I do one number, let's say I did 50 pixels, that would apply to all sides, right? 50, 50, 50, 50, all sides. If I do two numbers, let's do like 10 pixels and then maybe 20 pixels. The first number will be for the top and bottom. The next number will be for the left and right. So let's try that. That looks a little better. Yeah, maybe I have too much on the top and bottom, I think. Left and right look pretty good. Another thing we'll notice here is that this has rounded corners. Okay, and the way that you can do those rounded corners, so let's decrease this to maybe 5 pixels. And then we're going to do border radius. Okay, so if you think of a circle, right? A circle has a radius. Basically what we want to do is we want to pretend that this corner is going to have like a circular that has a certain radius to it. Okay, so it rounds it. And the higher the number, the more curved it is, right? If I did like 25 pixels, you'll see that it's quite round, right? Excuse me. But if I did just like 10 pixels, it is less of a rounded corner. So you can control that and play around with it however you want. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Oh, I think it's more rounded here. Looks like the font size I made a little bigger too. Another thing as well is notice how this is right up against this input element here. If we wanted to push it to the side a little bit, that's margin. Right, remember W3 School's box model. Let's see if I can find that again. All right, this box model. Ooh, I'm zoomed in here. Right, padding is in between the content and the border, and then margin is from outside of the border, so it gives you space between elements. All right, so I want to add to my button a margin left of maybe 25 pixels, let's say. Save that and go back to here, and you can see it added some space there. Cool. Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to stop there. Next video, we'll talk about changing the font sizes and stuff like that. But there's a new concept I'm going to introduce, the idea of adding a class, and we'll get to that in a second. But that was good for this one. We did the basic centering and then the input elements, the width of those, and this button. Oh, maybe we'll do the hover on the button yet, and then I'll stop. So we can select the button and do that hover class, our pseudo class, hover pseudo class like that. And it basically says apply these styles when we're hovering over the button. And for that, we'll just switch the background color to be white and the text color to be black. Right? It's normally a dark gray and then a white text. We'll go white and then black. And ta-da! Oh, and notice how it's still a point, the mouse pointer. We want to make it like a little hand pointer. And you can do that by adding a cursor selector, cursor style, and you can control the style. I think it's just called pointer. So now when we hover over it, yeah, it turns into the pointer. And what might be nice here is that instead of a white background, maybe we'll do that RGB and we'll do like a 180, 180, 180, so it's a light gray. Yeah, so it's not quite, so there's still like, it's not, it doesn't blend right into the background, but you can see kind of it still changes, but just different than the background. Okay, cool. So that button is looking pretty good. It doesn't do anything yet. We'll need JavaScript for that. All right, we'll see you in the next video.